Back to All in the Game, everyone. My name is Reginald Johnson, and today I have with me Coach Rudy Abrams, coach of Livingstone College, two-time CIAA champion and three-time Coach of the Year. Welcome, Coach.
Well, thank you, Reggie. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. And before we get started, we'll do our Negro National Anthem, and we'll get started with our game.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. And let's get started with our first quarter. So, Coach, one question I had to ask you is how did you get started playing football?
Well, I went to Carver High School in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and that was a sport. Football was a sport where it was very important at our school. We
Mhm.
weren't very good in basketball and track and other things like that, but we were very good in football.
Yeah.
And I just always wanted to play. I asked my mother about playing. She didn't want me to, but I went on, and my father let me play anyway. And we had great coaches. We wound up having a very good football team. We were state champions my junior and senior year,
Yeah.
and I just enjoyed playing. I played an end. We didn't have split ends and all that at that time. We were in a T formation.
Oh, yeah, the team.
So I played an offensive end and a defensive end. In my senior year, I only played offense, and I kicked extra points. So
Okay.
I just loved the game. I enjoyed it. We tried to play a little sandlot baseball, but every time we tried to play baseball, I'd get hurt. So I gave up baseball.
What
So,
the ball would hit you, Coach? Or
but yeah, they hit a ground ball, and you reach
hit it?
down to catch it, and it bounce up and hit you in the face.
Oh, yeah.
And the outfielder would throw the ball to first base as you ran to first, and the first baseman would miss the ball, and it hit me in the head as I ran by. So I
Yeah.
just decided baseball wasn't for me. I didn't get hurt in football, so I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's very ironic that you gonna get hurt in football, but playing baseball you get hurt. The
I
ball
know.
behind you and attack you.
Yeah,
So,
football was great at our school. It was real popular. We were real good at it, real good.
in your neighborhood growing up, did a lot of people in the neighborhood play football?
Yeah, several of the boys in my neighborhood, we're all on the team, and we all knew each other, and it was something that it was taken for granted that you would play. If you lived in our neighborhood, you were going to play.
Yeah. Did you look up to anybody growing up in the neighborhood? I know you mentioned your dad and your mom, but anyone else in the neighborhood that was
Well,
successful?
some of the older football players, there were several of them that you saw and you admired, and they were good, and you wanted to be like that. You wanted to have your uniform. All the guys were very proud of how their uniforms looked, and they had the shoes polished and the uniforms looked real good. So we tried to do that, and the older guys were our heroes, I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So did anybody else what was it like growing up in Spartanburg? Was it a southern city? Because I'm from Hampton, South Carolina, the low country, but Spartanburg is, even though it's in the same state, is seem like worlds away sometimes because it's the upstate, lower country, and then the
Yeah, but it was a southern town, and it had all the same problems that southern cities have, but things were a lot different though then. I mean, we were always out playing something. You know, we'd leave home in the morning and come back late that afternoon. We've been out playing football, something like that all the time. And you didn't really worry about danger. That was something different at that time. Some of the guys in the neighborhood now, in the summer, you would stand out under the street like 12 or 1 o'clock, just talking and fooling around. Nobody thought anything of it because everybody was safe and nobody was doing anything they didn't have any business doing.
Yeah.
It was a good time, and I think it was a good place to grow up. I think had some of the problems with segregation, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But overall, had a great childhood, I think.
So was community very tight knit?
I don't know about that. I'm not real sure. We had, our little neighborhood, the kids in our neighborhood, we were friends and we were good buddies and all, but I'm not real sure about whether the rest of the adults were. But nobody bothered anybody else, and you were safe.
Yeah.
I think that was the important thing for us.
Oh no, that is good. So how were your coaches? You said y'all ran the T. And what teams did y'all run?
We had 3 coaches. Albert Campbell was a head coach, and he came around on game day. And the other 2 coaches was Mr. Waddell Pearson and Mr. Roy Henderson. They did all the coaching. The head coach, he took care of equipment and buying stuff and scheduling games and all. But they were great. They never cursed. I can't ever remember them cursing a player, which is, today you'd think that's really odd, that's unusual, but they didn't raise their voices, they didn't curse at players. They tried to put you in the right position, and they did a great job. And like I say, we were very successful in it, and there's no way we would have been successful without them doing a great job.
Yeah. Yeah, so Coach, you had that no cursing rule too, though.
I didn't like it. I never thought you needed to do it. And, you take some things from the coaches that you had. And that was one of the things our coaches didn't do. They just didn't curse players.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me once, I think when I interviewed at Livingstone, did I curse players out? No, I don't do that. I might curse a situation, but I don't curse players.
Right. Yeah, that is right. So how do you think that helps out when you don't curse players? Because there's so many other words that you can use to kind of motivate a kid.
That's true. I'm not real sure how players feel about it. Most places, I think players do get cursed out. I just can't see how it does any good. And I don't know how it's going to make a player feel better about himself. And it's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of taking advantage of a player because you can curse him, but he can't curse you back.
Yeah, that's right.
I just never thought it was needed, and I tried to stay away from it. And I tried to tell the other coaches, for some of them it was different, but they kind of bought into it, and that was something we never really had a problem. And I always felt like I wanted to treat all my players just like I'd want them to treat my son.
Yeah, that's right.
And I didn't want to embarrass anybody. I didn't want to humiliate anybody. And I didn't want to take advantage of anybody. And there are times in coaching where you'll see some people take advantage of a person. They're in charge of them and they can take advantage. I don't like that. And I try to make sure we didn't do that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, that is right. Very manipulation, pretty much, when you take it from the players. Yeah, because you're already the authority figure and got the upper hand on the player.
That's true. Yeah, but treat a player like I'd want to be treated, and like I would want my son to be treated. And I felt like that, and that's the way I tried to do it for close to 40 years.
Yeah. So, what else did your coaches do that inspired you? That you kind of followed when you started coaching?
Well, I guess some of the way we practiced, we practiced our special teams and just try to get things that you're going to see in a game, try to get that worked out at practice. So when that situation arises in a game, it's not a surprise to a player. Yeah. And you try to build up a player's confidence if you can. I do believe in being honest with the player. If a player just can't get it done or just won't get it done, I don't think you can sugarcoat that. I think you have to tell him. And then, and I always told players, we're gonna get on you, and the moment you tell us that you don't want us to get on you, we'll stop. But
That's
then
right.
you're not gonna play.
You're not going to see the field. And I don't think a lot of you, I learned that a long time ago in middle school, I think, Coach, that when coaches stop yelling at you and getting on you,
Yeah.
just find another team to be on, because they're not caring, because they don't see that you get better and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But when they keep getting on you and saying you could do better, because you're never perfect in this sport called football or life. So as long as they're seeing things you can work on to help you get better and better, that's only going to help you out, and then it's going to help the team out.
That's right. And that really shows you that the coach cares about you and he thinks you can do better.
Mm-hmm.
And some players don't like that. Some players resent that. And you can't do much with guys like that. If they don't take criticism and they don't want you to criticize them, you're better off not having a guy like that on the team, because he's not going to do anything but rebel and make it harder for you to get what you want done. And you're going to always find some players will try to follow somebody like that. Then you got a problem.
Yeah, the squeakiest wheel syndrome gets the most attention.
Yeah, and that's why that's why I would tell players, we're going to load and reload till we get it right. Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to follow the program, we'll love you to death, but we'll have to let you go. That's right. That's just a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, Coach, tell me how you got to Livingstone. Salisbury, I guess, I know Benedict had a football team back then, didn't he?
Yeah.
State, Benedict, probably Allen, Claflin probably had a team too.
Yeah. And really, I never had given much thought to going to college. It's crazy, while looking back, but I really didn't think much about going to college. But we had 2 or 3 ladies on our faculty at Carver High School who were Livingstone graduates.
Oh, that's good.
And anybody that they saw that they thought had some potential, they started trying to gear them and push them toward Livingstone.
Yeah.
And I don't really know. I don't remember all the details how it happened, but it was just kind of with my father said, "Well, you're going to Livingstone,"
Oh, yeah.
And so those faculty people always pushed us toward Livingstone, and for some reason, that's where I wound up. I didn't know anything about it. I had never seen it before in my life. I'd never been there.
So you had the same story a lot of us had, sight unseen.
I guess so. Maybe that's just the way things were back then. But the first time I saw Livingstone, I was coming for summer practice. So that, that's probably maybe a little odd today, but that's the way it was back then.
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah.
So great, Coach, great first quarter. Second quarter, we're going to talk about your Livingstone, your time there playing receiver. So great first quarter. So let's start our second quarter, Coach.
Okay.
So, Coach, tell me about Livingstone. You say you got up there summer camp, and that's the first time you saw the campus. First thoughts when you saw the college?
Well, I thought it was pretty. The players were friendly, and one of my homeboys was on the team there, which made it a lot easier for me. I knew somebody, and he kind of looked out for me. His name was James Talley, called him Patch Talley. And he went on to be the mayor of Spartanburg. I think it's the first or the second largest city in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked out for me, and he kept the big boys from hazing, doing a whole lot of hazing. But it was tough. Coach Charlie Cox was our coach.
Yeah.
And Coach liked he liked to inflict pain. So it was difficult. It was difficult. It was hard to get used to, and the language was hard to get used to. And the first day we were in pads, I got knocked out. I got knocked unconscious. They had a drill, and I had to tackle. I think I was probably weighing about 150 pounds, and I had to tackle a guy weighing about 260, a big lineman. They gave him the ball, and I was supposed to run out there and tackle him. So last thing I remember was my head was hitting his knee. And then I woke up with my homeboy waking me up, and my head felt like it was about to explode. So, yeah, but it got better. It got better after that.
Yeah, well, it couldn't have any choice to get better. The first day of practice, you get knocked out.
That's
It's
the truth.
one way you go is up.
Yeah, that's the truth. I stayed out of practice a few days. The coach tried to get me to come back and practice the next day, and I wouldn't do it. I mean, my head was about to explode. I wouldn't do it.
Oh yeah.
So after 2 or 3 days, or at least another day, I got back out there to practice, and it got better. You know,
Yeah.
we never really had a good football team. We weren't good, but we didn't have a lot of players, and we had two coaches, Coach Cox and oh gosh, I can't think of the other coach was the basketball coach, and I can't right now I can't think of his name.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just tough. We had one coach trying to do it all, and
That's tough.
yeah, and his theory was that we were gonna run the ball and test every hole and see where we could find a weakness. But by the time we found a weakness, we were 30, 40 points behind.
Yeah, that's a crazy philosophy. That philosophy, coach, is like waiting to the end of the 9 weeks in the school year, the quarter, to start changing things around. But if you already
Yeah.
failing the whole quarter, you should have did that the 2 weeks into the quarter.
It was rough. It was rough. We didn't do real well.
So all that running, did y'all even pass the ball?
Did we do what?
Did y'all pass the ball?
Probably fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, like I said, when we were 30, 40 points behind, we passed the ball then. But,
Yeah.
you know, then everybody knew we were going to pass the ball. So they just played the, real deep secondary, and it was hard to do anything then. Plus, we hadn't worked on it. We were just determined we were going to run the ball, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that going on, how did that help you out when it came time for you to coach? I guess one thing you were able to learn how to adjust on the fly.
Yeah. I'll just say it was interesting, Reggie. I don't know if I should say anymore. It was interesting. You learned a lot of things. You saw how things were done, and you saw what worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
And you said to yourself that one day I'll be able to take the things that worked and use them, and the things that I see that don't work, I won't try.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Because it's like did you always want to? Because what your major was education.
Business education.
Okay, business education. Okay. So you always kind of knew you wanted to. When did you realize, I want to be a coach?
I'm not real sure, and I'm not real sure how much I wanted to coach. When I finished Livingstone, I went to York Road. I started here in Charlotte, and they asked me to coach, and that was one of the ways you could get a job, because you could do more than one thing. You could teach and coach.
Oh yeah.
So that helped me get a job, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I worked with a coach named Frank Roberts, who's a really nice guy at York Road. We had some good players. I didn't know a whole lot. I really didn't. I didn't know a whole lot at all. I was learning, and I was really interested. And I think I got better in my ability to coach as the years passed. And but I never. I'm not real sure if coaching was something I was really inclined to do from the very beginning. It just got in that situation, and then I enjoyed it.
Okay, so you were able to get into
Yeah.
Well, that's how it works sometimes. Especially, coming out of college, you don't know what you want to do, and 4 years comes by so fast.
That's true.
Even playing football for you, we got 40 games plus two bowl games, 42 games, and it's over with.
That's true.
If you don't have a plan when you get there, or at least have a plan your first year, like what am I going to do? It's going to go by so fast, and graduation is coming, and you got to figure out what you're going to do quickly.
That's true. That really is true. Yeah.
So after York Road, coach, where'd you go after that?
They moved some of us teachers to different schools. I'm not sure what they did with York Road. I think I'm not sure if they made it as junior high or what. I'm not real sure. But I was sent to East Mecklenburg High School.
Okay.
And I went to East, and asked the principal asked me, was I interested in coaching? And I said yes. And he told me to go talk to the head coach about an assistant's position. but the head coach wasn't interested. He told me they didn't have any positions. So while I was teaching at East, the head football coach at West Charlotte asked me to come over there and coach. So I
Yeah.
came over there and worked with the JV team over there. It's just funny how things worked out, because
Yeah.
then later on, a few years later, I wound up being the head coach at East. And the same guy who wouldn't give me a job came asking me for a job
Really?
at
So
East Met.
how'd you handle that, coach? Did you look at him and say, "Man, get out here"? Don't
I
you remember?
was I was professional about it. I told him I just didn't have any openings.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you never know when that circle is going to turn again.
That's right.
So
You have to be careful about how you treat people, because it can come back and bite you sometimes.
yeah. So so when you were at West Charlotte, was Coach McCullum there?
Yeah.
He was there. He was there also. He had a powerhouse too. Y'all had some powerhouses, basketball and football.
We got I think they always had a powerhouse in basketball. We weren't very good in football. When I went to West Charlotte was a consistent loser. I think the first year there we were 1-8. Then the next year we were 3-7, and the next year we got a little better and a little better, and finally got to a point where we were consistently good. But a whole lot of it just had to do with personnel. And at the time, I don't think I was a very good coach at that time. I was still learning.
Yeah.
And
then I guess they have football clinics back then that you could go to, did they?
Yeah. But they didn't, I couldn't bring home a 6'3", 250-pound lineman. The linemen I had at West Charlotte were not built like that at that time. But at some point, I don't remember what year it was, they switched some students around, and I got a good group of kids, and that changed the whole program around. One of the kids I got was named David Waymer. He was very good, outstanding player. He went on to play at Notre Dame, and then he played with the 49ers and the Saints. And with that group, we got in. We started winning. And I know one year, I think we played Richmond County for the state championship. We didn't win that game, but we had 8 straight shutouts that year. So we were good, but we just weren't quite good enough to win the state championship game.
Yeah. So how did it feel get to the state championship after going 1-8 and 3-7?
It felt great, but believe me, it wasn't all coaching that did it. We got some good players. So had some good players to be reassigned to West Charlotte, and that made all the difference in the world. I mean, and you can take the greatest coach in the world. If you don't have the players, you can't get it done. You got to have players, and we were able to have some players. And same thing in Livingstone. We at a point that we got some really good players.
Yeah,
that made the difference.
I
feel like Barry Switzer from the used to be the head coach at Oklahoma. He said, "I don't want to try to out-coach people. I want to out-athlete people."
That's right.
I want to have the best athletes.
Yeah, because you can know the X's and O's, but you got to have Jimmys and Joes. So if you have them, then I don't care how much you follow the fundamentals and all this stuff. If they're not good, they're gonna get blown off the line. They're not gonna control the line of scrimmage. They're going to lose every individual battle, and that's what football. It's a team sport, but it's all about individual battles also.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you can't win those individual battles on a consistent basis, then you are going to be a loser.
Yeah. And
so
you got to have players.
So after that, Coach, you did West Charlotte. I know you went to Garinger also. Then you went to East Meck. What made you go to Garinger? And has Garinger?
That's probably the biggest mistake in my life, Reggie. Probably the biggest mistake. It's a kind of a long story. To make a long story short, I felt at the time that the school board was going to make a lot of changes at West Charlotte that was going to undo everything that we had been able to build there.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to stay there and go through that.
Yeah.
And I thought I would, make a move and could get the same thing done at Garinger, but it just didn't work out that way. And it wound up being a really big mistake that I made. I should have stayed. Yeah. But, once you make that move, you got to do what you can with it. So I coached that one year.
Yeah.
And some things I thought needed to be done to make the program better, the principal wouldn't agree to. So I resigned. And so I was out of coaching for 1 year. Then the job at East Mecklenburg came up. And I applied and met with the superintendent, and he gave me the job. And we went to.
How was it being out of coaching for 1 year? I know that while it was tough for you,
It
Coach.
was. It was tough, and it was strange because, you know, you get in this routine of going to practice every day. Every Friday night, you go into a football game. That was really tough. And I wondered at the time, would I get the opportunity to coach again? But I got lucky. The superintendent gave me another shot, and we went to East and did real well. My first year at East, we lost 1 game by 1 point. So we did well. So
speaking of 1 game by 1 point, would you rather get blown out, Coach, or lose a game by a point?
It's kind of hard to say. When you're getting blown out, you know from the beginning what the end is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, when you lose by 1 point, that hurts. I mean, that just hurt. I think you can accept it when you're getting blown out. You know that you just weren't good enough.
Yeah, you should have stayed on the bus.
But when you lose by 1, that's the kind of game when you go home at night, you can't sleep. You can't sleep. You're ashamed to go out to the store because you just feel like you're a failure. So that's tough, right? I don't know which one is worse, really. I'm not sure.
I know one thing is when you got film session with a game that you lose by a point, everything is magnified.
Definitely.
You know, when you lose by 30 points in a game, it's like, okay, they got us, they're better than us. But when you lose by a point, it's like, just like basketball, make your free throws.
Yeah.
Don't turn the ball over. Little things like that can help you win the game. And the same thing with football. And you missed a tackle here. You didn't get your block in time.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that, Coach, they definitely stick out a whole lot.
If I'm not mistaken, the game we lost by 1 point was to Myers Park, and we missed an extra point, missed a kick. And that was it.
Yeah. I know the kids were dejected.
Yeah, you know, when you've won all those games leading up to that, it's kind of hard. But you know, after a certain point, you got to put it behind you and just start getting ready for the next game. And so, like I said, we only lost that 1 game by 1 point, and we won the rest of them.
So after you use a game by a point, Coach, how do you motivate the players for the next week? Like on that Monday practice, what do you tell them?
Well, you kind of tell them, you point out some of the little mistakes that make a big difference.
Yeah, little mistakes make a big difference.
Yeah, you just try to tell them that, you know, we're just going to improve on that. And that was just a slip up, and we won't make that mistake again. That's about all you can do. You can't fool them and tell them, you know, some one thing was the difference. But, you know, you just say, well, you're going to get better, and you learn from a loss. You don't learn from winning everything. You learn from a loss.
Yeah, sometimes people because winning covers a multitude of sins. You can win and you can still be messing up.
Yeah.
And then you get so cocky and thinking you better than everybody else, but you were just outman the team. But then when you play someone who's at your level, those same mistakes won't win the game. They're actually gonna make you lose the game.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So tell me about how you got to Livingstone from East Meck.
Well, at East Meck, we had gotten to a point where our numbers were just getting smaller and smaller. We, I think maybe the last year I was there, we had to drop the JV program. We just didn't have enough players.
Oh, yeah.
I think we had about 28 guys on the varsity. And you can have a big student body, but if they aren't really that interested in football, then it really doesn't matter. But I was standing out on the field one day. We got 28 players, and the boys cross country team comes by. They run by, and we got 40 boys on the boys cross country team, and I got 28 on the football team. I said, something's wrong with this. That doesn't make sense. And I didn't see it getting any better. So I could retire. And I had a friend, a close friend of my wife's and mine, a lady named Nellie Love. She was a Livingstone graduate. And she was always telling me, Rudy, we want you to come to Livingstone and coach. I hadn't even thought about it. I just said, okay, you know, we'll talk about it. So she met with the president, who was Dr. Franklin, but Bernard Franklin.
Yes,
She
sir.
talked to him, and I met with him at some dinner or breakfast or something like that. And she said, you know, introduced me and said, this is the guy that I want to be our next football coach. And he just smiled and said, okay. So he asked me to come in for an interview, and I came in, and before I left the interview, he said, well, hey, you got the job. And I'm saying, oh, okay. You know, all this is a surprise to me, and everything's happening so fast. But that's basically how I got there as a coach. And they had just changed, well, let their head coach, who was also their athletic director, they had just replaced him, or let him go, I should say.
Yes, sir.
And that's how I got there, and that's how it all started at Livingstone.
Okay, well, great. So yeah, we'll get ready to go to halftime and end this quarter, but then we'll talk about third quarter, how you got to Livingstone and how you're able to turn it around.
Okay.
So if you need some water, you get some, Coach. We'll let the band play for a little bit. You know, you like the bands. That's what we do.
Okay.
All right, let's start. Before we start our third quarter, Coach, couldn't let the band go on forever because this is not a homecoming game. You know, homecoming, we seem like we in the locker room for like a whole hour waiting on the band and the pageantry and the queens and all of that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions. So,
okay,
which one did you like running better, Coach? The trap, 42 red, one of my favorite plays because I love to see them guys just trap somebody, or 38 or 39.
I like the option, Reggie. I like 38 and 39.
Yeah.
You know, I think you got three things you can do against two people.
Okay.
And there's no way for the defense to get it right if we do it right.
That's right.
Because like I said, we got three things we can do against two people.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like that, because in that situation, if we do what we're supposed to do, we're always supposed to have a good play.
Always.
And at the same time, when you got a big guy like Wilmot back there running the trap, that's hard to stop.
Yeah.
And we had guys like Courtney Coleman trapping and Shadrick trapping, people like that. You know, it was just, both of them were very good plays for us.
Yeah. And so favorite football movie, Coach, I think I already know it's probably Remember the Titans because of the option. Is that what it is?
Reggie, I liked it. I liked the movie. I met the real coach.
Coach, okay.
And I'm trying to think of the right way to put this. Then it wasn't my favorite movie anymore. I'll put it like that.
Yeah. And what about defense? What defense did you like? Even though you were an offensive guy.
Well, Reggie, you know, we had good defensive coaches. We had Coach Smith, Coach Boulware, Coach Wiggins, and Coach Richardson. They all worked with, and they all did great jobs with our defense. Just about any defense that those guys decided to play wound up being a good defense for us. We had good people in the secondary. We had good guys on the defensive line. I don't know if I had a favorite defense.
Yeah, that defensive line, they was tall like some basketball players.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were good players.
6'5" across the board.
Yeah, they were good players. Very good players.
What was your best stadium other than Alumni Stadium to be in for like the experience that when we were playing at Livingstone? Can you name one, or does anyone stand out to you?
I enjoyed the victory we had in Central Stadium.
Man, they Coach, they was talking a lot of stuff, wasn't they?
Yeah, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's from Charlotte. When we were going to play there.
His name is Nicky Brandon, the receiver.
Okay.
With the West Charlotte.
Yeah. They asked him what did he expect from the game, and he said that he expected a blowout.
Mm-hmm.
And so of course we used that to motivate our players. And there was a blowout, but it wasn't them getting the blowout. It was us getting the blowout.
That's right.
So I enjoyed that. The stadium was full, stadium was packed, and I don't think anybody there thought that we would win.
No.
In fact, a lady that was a friend of my wife's and mine lived in our neighborhood at one time, told my wife during the game that they were going to kick our butts. And we blew them out. So that was favorite place to play there.
Yeah, that was right. That was good. Well, great one-on-one, Coach. Now we're going to get started with our third quarter.
Okay.
We'll talk about getting to Livingstone and turning it around.
Okay.
So third quarter, get to Livingstone, going back home, because you're going back home and you're doing something that probably hasn't been done there in a while, trying to build a winning program.
Right.
What was your philosophy going in the door? I know one thing you always mention, and we always talk about this, Coach, load and reload.
Yeah.
Was that the motto going in there?
Yeah, it was. And I think one thing, Reggie, we all know and understand, you gotta have good players.
That's
now,
right.
When you first get to a school like Livingstone, you don't know what kind of players you got. But I got there and we saw the guys and I had seen some games of the previous year, but the physical talent really wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have big guys, we didn't have strong guys, we didn't have fast guys. But the one thing that really impressed me about the guys at Livingstone that we had there, I think they wanted to win. They were just tired of losing.
Yeah.
They had 7 years in a row without a winning season. And when we got there, they accepted the coaching that we were doing, the things that we told them they tried to do. Like I said, now they weren't the most talented guys in the world, and they weren't the biggest and the fastest and the strongest, but you could just see it. Those guys were just tired of losing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they thought if anybody can help us turn this thing around and win, we're going to try to help them. We're going to try to do what the coaches say that we should do. And they did. And we started out winning. The first game, we beat Fayetteville State.
Yeah.
And I think that was shocking to everybody. In fact, the coach from Fayetteville State put in the newspaper down there the next day. He said, that's not the same old Livingstone team we're used to seeing.
Oh,
and they fired him. They fired him after that, because he lost to us. And, it was just one of those things where we were beginning to turn around. And we put some players who were on the bench when I had seen them play before I got there. Mm-hmm. And one guy in particular that turned out to me to be a great football player was Sheldon Davis. I don't know if you know him.
Oh, yeah, Sheldon, the running back. Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't playing. He was on the bench the year that I came up and watched them play. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who the fullback was that Sheldon eventually got that spot. But the guy who was playing fullback at that time wasn't as big as me. And here's Sheldon at about 6'1", about 240 or something like that. He's sitting on the bench.
Oh, yeah. Sheldon was a load too, Coach.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, we made some changes, put some people where they should be, and put Sheldon in fullback. And, man, we ran a trap with Sheldon. It was tough in there. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be the guy trying to tackle him coming through that hole. But we did some things like that. And basically, the biggest thing, I think, was the guys just wanted to win. They were just tired of losing, and they tried their best. And we won a bunch of games. Well, I think we won 5 games that year.
Yep, 5 games.
Yeah.
And yeah, so 5 games, and that was good. So one thing, the players were coachable. They wanted to win. How'd you go about recruiting your staff? You mentioned Coach Richardson.
Well, Coach Richardson and I had been friends. We've been friends for years, and I asked him to come and work with me. He knew Coach Rivens. he talked to Coach Rivens and got Coach Rivens on board. Coach Wiggins was already a coach at Livingstone. Coach Smith, one of his relatives or in-laws or something like that, worked in recruiting students at Livingstone, and he came by and told me I got a uncle, or not an uncle, but somewhere he was related to Coach Smith.
Yes, sir.
I know this guy, he really wants to coach here. Could you talk to him and give him a chance? And then I did, and Coach Smith turned out to do a great job for us. He was a great coach. I call him Sarge because he's all, he talked to the players like a sergeant, a drill sergeant. And I'm trying to think. Kevin Dow was a student. He was a student in Livingstone. He had done all his playing. He was through playing. And somebody mentioned to me, he's a smart guy. He wants to coach. Why don't we give him a chance? And I did. And he did a great job for me.
But Coach, before that, my freshman year, you remember we had Coach Gibbs, John Gibbs, the receiver. We had him.
Yeah. Coach Gibbs, his mother was also a student in my high school. We lived probably 30 yards from each other.
Oh,
so I had known her all my life, and I didn't know him real well, but I knew he was her son, and I knew he played at he played at Grambling.
That's right.
He played at Grambling, yeah. So somewhere or another, I got in touch with him and asked him to come up and work with the receivers, and he did a real fine job. I think he only stayed 1 year. I think
he stayed 1 year. Then we got Coach Dow. Yep.
Yeah. But
he helped introduce that spread, though, Coach.
He did. He did. And I think when we beat Central so bad up there for homecoming, he was calling most of the plays from the box.
Yeah.
And, we were scoring just like that. And, I sure didn't want to stop that. I told him, keep calling the plays.
That's right. Keep doing it.
Yeah.
So at that first year, 5 games, and then that was 94. And in 95, we went 5-4-1.
Right. Winston-Salem tied us on a last-second field goal.
17-17.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. And we
and that's the last time. Every time we played Winston after that, we beat them.
Beat the brakes off them.
My first year, tied them the second year, and we beat them the rest of the time we were at Livingstone.
That's right. Beat them the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And so. And we were getting close, Coach. That 8-2 that year we went 8-2, 96. What was it about that team that kind of that said, that's it? We're gonna turn the lights on, and we're not gonna turn these lights off until the season over with. Because we went 8-2 and 7-1 in the conference.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to just say a combination of good players and they played up to their potential. I don't know how else to put it. I like to say we had some good coaching too, but we had really good players, and we had good players in key positions. We always had a good quarterback. All the years I was there, we had a good quarterback. We had good running backs. We had good receivers. We just we were loaded. We had, and we were just, we were climbing that hill, but it was getting easier for us to go up that hill because the guys were playing better and better, and everything was just falling into place. We were building.
And you know what else too, Coach, as you was talking, we had more continuity that year too, because we didn't lose a lot of players through eligibility.
True.
And we didn't have a lot of people. We didn't have a lot of seniors that left. We only had 2 seniors that 95 year, I think Mike White and Tim McLean. After that, we had everybody pretty much came back. So we had more continuity, and we expected to win. It was just like, look, we're going to win.
Yeah, and we did. I think that's the year, Reggie, where we averaged 41 points a game.
Yeah,
I think that's the year.
Remember that first game, Coach? Well, I'll go back to the 95 year. Coach, I got to ask you this question. Okay. Who scheduled that game in Glenville State when we had to go up there in that cold? And
what about it?
Who scheduled that game?
Coach Huff.
You know how cold it was? Well, you was there with us. But
I know. Reggie, that's one of the things too. I think a lot of people don't realize when you take over a program and you're in a small school and you haven't been winning, everybody calls you wanting to play you.
Really?
Yeah, everybody calls. And now they aren't calling you because they're looking for a good competition.
They're looking for an easy win.
They're looking for an easy win. They're looking for somebody that they can score 40, 50 points on and humiliate. That's the way they want to get their season going.
Yeah.
And when I first got the job at Livingstone, we didn't have an athletic director because the previous head coach was also the athletic director.
Yes,
so
sir.
For my first year or so there, at least the first year, we didn't have an athletic director. So all these teams would call me wanting to play. And I knew what they wanted, but I wasn't about to let that happen.
No.
Schools called us that we didn't have a chance of beating. And I don't think you get anything good out of getting humiliated.
No, you don't.
These teams, I wouldn't play them. But now, after we got an athletic director, then they start making some decisions. They see some money. Some team will give you $10,000, $15,000 to come there and play them. Mm-hmm. And they don't mind giving you that. They're going to make that on their home crowd, and they're going to humiliate you.
That's right.
I really didn't want to play. I didn't want to play Glenville, and it was somebody we played in Georgia.
Albany State.
Albany State. I didn't want to play them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another game Coach Huff scheduled. And I understand the athletic director is trying to make money.
That's right.
So, but
you know what? With that Glenville State game, that next year,
yeah,
they came in because it was like the tale of two cities almost. It was snowing, 10 degrees, cold. We was just out of it.
Yeah,
we didn't know it was gonna be that cold.
Right.
Short t-shirts on, but then when they came to Salisbury that '96 year, we put up some numbers. And coach, remember Rich Rodriguez was a coach. Right.
Yeah, the guy he went on to be head coach at West Virginia, Michigan, Arizona State, and now he's an assistant coach somewhere. But he's been big time, real big time. He didn't do real well at those places, but he's been at the top of the coaching mountain, Uh-huh. Yeah, but and he wouldn't shake hands with me after we beat him too. He wouldn't shake hands.
He wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't shake hands.
So when we won that game, Coach, did you think, all right, I got something? Because the year before they beat us like 40-0.
Right, they beat us 40-0. I'm trying to see. Glenville, we beat them 40-34. They couldn't stop the option. We ran the option at will on them. They couldn't stop it. And our first play of the game, I think, was a screenplay to Wilmot. It was a screenplay to Wilmot, and he went about 60 yards for a touchdown on the first play back when they played us at Livingstone. Mm-hmm. And like I said, they couldn't stop the option. We ran it at will on them. We just kept the ball and ran the ball all the way down the field, and they didn't have a clue how to stop it. Because when we got ready to go on the field, one of their players looked at me and said, "You're not going to be able to say it's too cold this time, Coach."
No, he didn't, Coach.
Yes, he did. He said, "You're not going to be able to say it's too cold." And I didn't say anything. I was surprised because when the paper, the reporter interviewed me after we played them, I said, "Man, it was just so cold up here."
It was.
We just couldn't handle the cold, and I wasn't making excuses because we were freezing, and the field was muddy, But one of their players said,
"They ran the clock that second half. We was ready to get out of that place."
Yeah. Well, the referee asked me because he said, "You want us to just let the clock run?" I said, "Yeah, let it run."
Yeah.
We weren't gonna win, and we were getting beat to death. That's the only game at Livingstone where we didn't score. The only one. And like I said, the guy said, "You're not gonna be able to say it's too cold today, Coach." And it was hot. I mean, it was really hot.
It was one of them hot days in Salisbury, wasn't it, Coach?
Yeah, it really was. But we beat them, and that's one of the best wins I think I've had. Mm-hmm. And like I said, we went to the middle of the field. He wouldn't shake hands.
Oh man! Any other wins stand out for you that 8-2 year? Because we played Liberty that year too.
You know what? We would have beaten Liberty if we had been healthy.
Yeah. We did get hurt at the end. It
was at the end of the year. Purnell was hurt. I'm not sure if Wilmot and Chris were hurt, but we were kind of beat up. It was the 10th game of the season, and we should have and could have beaten them, I think, if we had been healthy, but we weren't. But that's just the way it was. I'm trying to think of what other important game we had then. I can't.
We had.
Well, we scored 43-25 on Central.
Yeah, that was our homecoming too.
Fayetteville State, we 42-17. We beat them 42-17. So, I mean, it was just a good year for us.
Yeah, that was a good year. So that was the year, Coach, that I don't know how you tied for first, but that was the year we tied for first. Virginia State, I'll say it. They went to Hampton. They played Hampton at RFK Stadium, and then we lost to Norfolk. And after that, they gave it to them. Yeah. And Norfolk was moving up to the MEAC.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they did us. I don't think they treated us fairly in that. But they were Virginia school, and the CIAA office was located in Virginia. And I think that all that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
And so we finished with the same record, and they gave them the championship.
Gave it to them, yeah.
Yeah. So, but we got them the next year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Getting back to that, getting back to 97, how did you feel about coming into the 97 year? Because we did lose a lot of players, mainly guys on the defense. We lost a lot of, but the defense was so deep, we could, like you said, get more people in there because they were so deep that we had a lot of continuity on defense. What did you think about?
I thought we'd be good, Reggie. I really did. I thought we'd be good. And remember now, we started out good. We had to forfeit 2 games, the first 2 games, because one player lied to the faculty representative who was certifying players. And we were getting close to game time, and he took the boy's word, and the kid just lied to him. So we had to forfeit the game that we beat Virginia, beat Union
and Bowie.
We beat them 56-6, and we had to forfeit that game. Guy played 1 or 2 plays. He was a defensive lineman. And like I said, he played 1 or 2 games, and we forfeited a 56-point win. Yeah. The next one, we played Bowie, and we had to forfeit that. We beat them 40-9.
Yeah, I remember.
So we had to forfeit 2 games that weren't even close for us. And I thought we were going to be pretty good that year. I really did.
Yeah. And I'm glad they caught it when they caught it, because if they didn't, then we would have been one more loss. We wouldn't have won it.
Right.
It worked out. But how was that, Coach? Now, that's some major adversity. We 0-2 from the start, and the CIAA back then, you couldn't lose a game or 2 games.
Yeah.
Everything had to be perfect. Because I remember the day you had to talk with us, that day on that old practice field down the hill. You pretty much told us what was going on, what we had to do to overcome this thing. We would overcome it. We're going to be all right. Just stick with the program.
But Reggie, the 2 games that we forfeited, I didn't count them as a loss. I mean, for us.
Yeah, no, we were 10-0.
Because we were 10-0. We were 10-0 that year. The only game we lost where we were beaten on the scoreboard was the game with Kentucky State.
Kentucky State.
We lost to them. What was the score? 26-30.
Yeah.
And they played well, and we didn't play as well as we should have. We made a couple of mistakes, but we were good. We played well. I mean, we were just win after win after win. So I was really excited about that year. I thought we'd be good.
Yeah.
And we were really.
So how'd you get the alumni to kind of get things for us? As far as they bought us jackets, they bought us sweatshirts, they used to feed us. We go to Maryland, we eating. How did you was able to build that relationship with them?
Reggie, I think the alumni, like the first team, they just wanted us to win. They weren't used to it. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed traveling.
They did,
They followed us. We had big crowds everywhere we went. Playing away from home didn't mean a thing. We enjoyed it because the crowds were always big.
Yeah.
I had some classmates that had told me, it's Rudy, if you need something, give me a call. Some of these guys were doctors and
Mm-hmm.
lawyers, and they were outstanding people in the neighborhood, in their neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And I called them. We had some stands where you would do your, I can't think of the name, what you call it, but you stand flat footed and jump up on them, and one would be a little higher than the next one, like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
I called one of them. He's a doctor in New York. He comes down to almost every homecoming. Fred Staten. I called him and told him we needed, I think it was about $500.
Yeah.
I told him, hey, send the check to the school. Don't send it to me. Send
Yeah.
it to the school. And he did. We buy things like that. And we had my old high school coach fed the team after practice one day. We had Sonny's barbecue.
I remember. Oh, it was good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had them bring the.
In the pavilion.
Yeah, they brought the food up there, and this was my old high school coach that paid for that, along with some other old teammates and all. But these guys enjoyed us winning. They were proud of the team. They gave money to our program. They were just proud of it. They looked forward to going to the games, and it wasn't hard to get them to do things for us. They were proud and they wanted to do it. So
Yeah.
winning cures a lot of ills. It really does.
It does. So winning it all, Coach, how did it feel? Well, first of all, playing Virginia State when they went to Hampton, because they coaches talking a lot of stuff on. Remember they had that show on ESPN. He was saying, and one thing he said is, "We ain't ducking Livingstone. We'll play Livingstone anywhere. We'll play him in the streets. All I care." And they cut it. You know what I'm saying? The clip, and we was just humble. We was like, okay, we're gonna play him. That's what it is. But how was that game? Because that was a very exciting game.
It was, and it was a very emotional game for me.
Oh, it was.
It really was. All the time they were saying, if we had played you, we would have beaten you. They kept saying that. And all the time I'm thinking we would beat you, but you never know.
Yeah.
And then when we did play them and beat them, it was emotional for me. It really was. But
is that one of your best wins, Coach?
Yeah, it really was. But one of the things I like to say there about their coach, God Almighty, his name was right on the tip of my tongue.
I think his last name was Anderson, Lou Anderson. Wasn't
Lou
it?
Anderson. He was one of the nicest guys. When I first started at Livingstone, we had a CIAA meeting, and I went to it. I was brand new, and I'd seen the ACC coaches meetings on TVs and how they joked and kidded with each other. And I just, I said, well, we're not playing each other, and we're no threat to anybody right now. So I'm sure everybody's going to be nice. And it was just the opposite. Coach Anderson was really about the only coach that would speak to me.
Really?
And I couldn't figure out why. We haven't played. We don't have any animosity. We don't have any rivalry. We're not in their we're not in a competition to them. But he said, Rudy, he said, don't worry about these other coaches. They think because you coming from high school, you don't know what you're doing. And I'm thinking, well, even if they think I don't know what I'm doing, why should they be hostile toward me? Because really, he was the only coach that would speak to me.
Man, that's interesting.
It really is. And we turned out to be pretty good friends. We had a lot of games and we played them, and there was no animosity between he and I. Yeah. And I liked him. I liked him a lot. I hated when he stopped coaching, but it was just interesting. It was just one of those things where I was a new guy, and I don't know why they just weren't welcoming a new guy on the block. I don't know.
Probably because you got some of them guys fired. I don't know.
But see, this was before we ever played a game.
Oh yeah, I know. They probably saw something coming though. Because
I don't know. I don't think anybody thought we were going to be a threat to them. Really, I don't think so. But it was just interesting to me. He was the only one.
The only one that was That's interesting. Yeah. So with that coach winning it all that 97 year, the school, like I said, they looked out for us because it wasn't like we was just Salisbury team. The whole AME Zions from North Carolina up to DC to Maryland to New York was pretty much cheering for us. We do anything, they would make sure we were taken care of.
Right.
That was the golden years.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I don't know if it's, I don't know if it had ever been like that before.
Mhm.
Uh, as someone called it. I don't know if the atmosphere had ever been like that before, but I doubt if it's ever been like that since. Everybody was, all the alumni, all the AME Zion people were just so proud of Livingstone. I mean, I'm telling you, man, they look forward to going to games. Everywhere we went, they came to Atlanta. They went everywhere we went to play. They were there,
That's
you know.
right.
And when we played at home, the stands were full. You know, it was
Because
just,
we had to get those new bleachers.
yeah, it was just a special time. It really was. And I
Yeah,
really hope that they get to that point again. I really hope they do.
yeah, definitely. Because one thing, Coach, you would always give us the homecoming speech, and homecoming is, look, they're not here. Homecoming is not for you if you play football. All this stuff is not for you. So you can enjoy it after the game, but Monday through Friday, it's business. It's a business
Yeah,
trip.
that's right. And the players, handled it just like that too.
Hmm.
Because I don't think we ever lost a homecoming game. I can't remember us losing one.
Yeah. Oh, we won. We my senior year we lost to Central. That's the only game I lost at alumni. I think,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
we lost to them.
And that was when the quarterback Hopper was
Yeah,
hurt, wasn't he? He
yeah,
didn't play.
yeah. He didn't
Yeah,
play. D Hop was hurt. Yep, that's right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, Coach, great third quarter. Next quarter, we're going to talk about how words of advice for Livingstone to how to build that program up and keep it up.
Okay.
So, Coach, great third quarter. Let's start the fourth quarter.
Okay.
So, Coach, give me some words of advice or just some processes, because Mike Austin, he's back down there now. They got one of us in the building, and he's kind of doing the same thing that was done when we were there, getting everybody more involved in it. We're excited about it. He's telling us more about different things. What else should they be doing down there to kind of build a program up and
Well,
bring play?
Reggie, I think it's hard for me to give a real solid suggestion on that because I think you have to be there. You got to know the players
Hmm.
and the new coaches. I don't know any of them other than Mike.
Yeah,
Hopefully, they've had a chance to. I don't know whether they've had a chance to meet with the players or not.
yeah,
I hope they have, and they have some idea. I know I don't think they've practiced, but
yeah. That's tough.
yeah, that's going to be tough. But hey, it gets back to what we started out with. You got to have good players.
Yeah, you
They're
got
going to have to recruit and get good players. You can't do it with a bunch of little boys. You got to get some horses. You got to get some big boys in there, and you got to have some people who can make plays, who can do things for you, who can score a touchdown, and who can intercept passes, and who can stop runs at the line of scrimmage. You got to have those kind of people if you're going to win. So
yeah,
I would, I don't know the new coach. I've never met him. I hope he has all the success. And I hope they can, have more success than we had there. Because I'd like to come up and see the team win. But you're
yeah,
going to have good players. You got to have good coaches who know what they're doing and who are going to treat the guys right and make the guys want to play for you. And
yeah,
you got to schedule well.
yeah,
You got to schedule your non-conference games. You got to schedule people that you can compete with, that are not trying to get you to be a patsy for them.
yeah,
If these big schools call you and they want to put these people on your schedule and all they're going to do is humiliate you, you don't want that because the first thing will happen is your players won't believe in you.
yeah.
Players are funny. Players are funny. Guys, if you ask a guy at Livingstone, can you beat Clemson? Yeah, we can beat them. That's their attitude, which is good, but it's not realistic.
That's right.
you know. And if you go into it thinking that, my players can play with anybody, it sounds good, but it's not realistic.
Yeah.
You got to schedule people that you have a chance of competing with. If you don't do that, the only thing you're doing is digging a hole for yourself.
Yeah, because
And
players, we very have a mental psyche. So if we've been doing same things every day in practice, and then we do it in a game and it's not working, we think, okay, is coach philosophy really working? We just got
right,
great speed off of us.
right. Right.
And we'll start saying, well, what else is coach lying to us about? And you're
Yeah.
really not lying. We just not in a position to be successful.
Yeah. Now the players don't ever or rarely ever say the guy in front of me is just better than me. They don't say that. They don't say that the other team is just better. They just better players. They start looking for somebody to blame. And who is that? That's the coach. Just like you said, if things aren't working, well, you know, maybe coach isn't right about that, or coach needs to change this. You know, when you're winning, that doesn't happen.
Right.
But when you're losing, it's not going to be my fault. It's not going to be the player's fault. He's not going to say that guy in front of me is beating my butt and there's nothing I can do about it. He's going to say, coach didn't teach me something that should have made me beat that guy.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm 5'10" and 180 pounds, and this guy is 6'5" and he weighs 320. I should be able to beat him. You
Right.
know?
That's right.
And that's just not realistic.
No, it's not at all, is it, coach?
You got to schedule. You got to schedule well.
So yeah, making sure we schedule. And then what about the community, getting the community back involved again? But you got to win, I guess, because nobody, I always tell people this, nobody supports a loser.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
They got better things to do with their time than come. And that's anybody. Nobody goes, even when the Panthers are losing, people don't even go to the game.
Right. So, you got to win. If you're expecting great community support and you're losing, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And one thing too, Reggie, it's difficult for a coach with a small staff and not much money. It's difficult for him to create a lot of community support because he doesn't really have time to go out and do those things.
Yes, sir.
You know, you'll get some support if you're winning, and that's unfortunate that it's that way, but that's the way it is.
Oh, I'm back, coach. So if you're winning, you definitely will get some support.
Yeah, definitely.
Then it's going to be tougher.
Everybody loves a winner, and if you lose alone.
Yeah, no, that's some good philosophy. What about some of my favorite sayings, coach, when somebody does something they shouldn't do and you say, I'm gonna put you on a bus with an apple and a banana and you're gonna be out of here. Where did you get those things from?
Reggie, I don't remember that one.
This one right here. We got 5 minutes for a game. You look at us and say this. All right, guys, like the lion told the monkey when he cut his tail off. It won't be long now.
Won't be long now.
That's right.
Yeah. A friend of mine in Spartanburg used to say that. It won't be long now.
It won't be long, yeah.
Yeah.
So give me 3 keys to victory, coach, for anybody, whether it be in the pandemic or just in life. How can they continue to win and be successful?
Recruit.
Yep.
Teach.
Yep.
Teach.
Okay, so recruit, teach.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, because if they don't know, they're not going to be able to do it when they in that environment.
Right.
Okay, so that's great. So recruit, teach, and teach.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else you want to lead the people with, coach? Because I know everybody's glad to see you. I know I am. Thank you for hanging out with me on the show today. Anything you want to
I've enjoyed it, Reggie. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you, coach. So you know I got to give you this because you are the head coach. And coach, I want to thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, always good. We're going to do another one where I'm going to get all of the coaches that coach with you, probably in the near future, and I'll let you know when that's going to be so all of them can be on with you so you can kind of talk about building that successful program like we just talked about.
Okay, Reggie, I really enjoyed it. A lot of fun.
Thank you, coach. You have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks,